I was 21, home from college for the summer. I needed a break from school, so I spent my days doing small things, picking up bagels, going to rehearsals, working a part-time job. There was a small local bagel shop near my house, mom and pop place, friendly. I went there often, always ordered the same thing. One weekday morning, around 10 a.m., I walked in. Behind the counter was a young guy, maybe 24 or 25. He greeted me with a smile that felt a little too wide. He watched me as I ordered. Not just watching, studying.
I gave him my order. Then I opened my wallet to pay, and all my spare change spilled onto the floor. Coins everywhere. I was mortified. Before I could even bend down, he rushed around from behind the counter and started picking them up. While he crouched there, I noticed his finger was bandaged. I felt terrible. I told him he didn't need to help, but he insisted. He kept picking up coins, looking up at me with this strange intensity. I asked about his finger. He sighed and said he dislocated it playing rugby. We talked for a minute. Rugby, how long he'd played, where. Harmless. I paid, wished him a nice day, and left. I didn't think about him again until that afternoon. I checked my Instagram. New follower. I clicked the notification. My stomach dropped. It was him, the guy from the bagel shop. His profile picture was his face. I was baffled. My socials have my real first and last name because of my work in music and theater. If someone really wanted to find me, it's not hard. But he'd have to know my name. And I never told him my name. Maybe he saw my credit card? The receipt? I removed him as a follower and tried to forget it. About a half hour later, he followed me again. A new account. Then he sent me a direct message. He said he hoped it wasn't weird that he'd found me. He said he couldn't stop thinking about me. Now I felt uneasy. I get random followers and DMs. I'm public online for my work. That doesn't scare me. But this was different. This guy had access to me in person. His work was 10 minutes from my house. I blocked him again. That should have been the end. But I was wrong. My job started up again, 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Then theater rehearsal from 6 to 10 at night. I was exhausted. On my lunch break, I checked my phone. He'd made another account. He was spam-liking every post I'd ever made. Over 50 notifications. The messages kept coming. Compliments, questions about why I'd blocked him, demands to talk. During rehearsal break, I checked again. Over 100 notifications across Instagram, Snapchat, even TikTok. He'd found everything. The messages became angrier. He asked why I wasn't answering. He complained about making new accounts. He said I looked pretty that day. Then he demanded a response. My heart was racing. I felt helpless. Rehearsal ended at 10 p.m. I walked out the stage door, gripping my keys. The parking lot was dark. I was only a few steps out when I stopped. Something had moved near my car. A figure, hovering around the driver's side door. I couldn't see clearly. I'm nearsighted. But I knew. I bolted back inside, locked the stage door, and ran to find someone. Finn, the stage manager, calmed me down. He said he'd check first, then walk me out. While I waited, my phone buzzed. A new DM. You look good in blue. I was wearing blue that day. Finn walked me to my car. My nerves were shot. I looked everywhere. Behind the dumpster, the trees, the fence, behind my car. Finn stood beside me as I opened the door. Then I saw them. 2 distinct handprints on my driver's side window. He had really been there. I wasn't paranoid. He had found the theater. Because I'd posted the cast announcement on my Instagram story. I wanted to kick myself. I was going to be there all week, and now he knew exactly where I was. I stopped going to the bagel shop. I changed my route to work.
I didn't post anything until I was home. But he noticed. His DMs grew angrier. Why wasn't I coming to the shop anymore? Where was I? He said he could easily find me. Then, opening weekend came. After the Saturday matinee, a friend told me someone had left flowers for me. I felt bad. I thought it was a friend surprising me. It was from him. A bouquet of roses and a note. The note said he was disappointed I hadn't come to see him after the show. It said the roses would look lovely in my bedroom. And it said I didn't need the stage manager to walk me to my car because I had him.
That was the last straw. I went to management. Apparently, a new box office hire had let him in. He told her he was my boyfriend. He'd bought tickets for the entire run of the show. The theater banned him, voided his tickets. I filed a police report and started the process for a restraining order. I haven't heard from him since, but I still look over my shoulder when I walk to my car at night.
This happened a few years before the bagel shop incident. I lived on a street with a row of shops directly opposite my house. At the very end of the row was a pharmacy, the first shop you'd see when you turned onto my street. One night around 2 a.m., I was driving home from a friend's house. I was exhausted, on autopilot. As I got closer to my street, I saw a figure standing outside the pharmacy. I didn't think much of it, probably someone drunk or on a late walk. But as I turned onto my street, I slowed down. The figure hadn't moved at all. They were dressed completely in black, standing perfectly still directly in front of the pharmacy doors. Something felt wrong. I turned onto my street and slowed down to get a better look. As soon as my headlights properly lit him up, he lifted both hands to cover his face. He was wearing black leather gloves. Then, slowly, he turned his head, following my car as I drove past, his hands still covering his face, just one eye peeking through. I sped up. Without thinking, I pulled into my driveway, which was directly across the street from the shops. The second I did it, I realized how stupid that was. Now, he knew exactly where I lived. I sat in my car, frozen. I looked in the rearview mirror. The street behind me was empty. He wasn't there anymore. A wave of relief. Then, another thought. If he wasn't there, where did he go? It had only been 20 seconds. I took a breath, grabbed my keys, and ran to my front door. I've never moved so fast. I got inside, locked the door, and leaned against it, trying to calm my racing heart. I texted my friends. They said I'd probably just scared him off. I almost believed them. My bedroom is at the front of the house, with a clear view of the pharmacy. Before bed, I looked through the blinds one last time. The street was empty. I closed the blinds, left my window slightly open, like I always did, and fell asleep. I'm a deep sleeper, so when I woke up suddenly, I knew something was wrong. I lay in the dark, listening. Then, I heard it. Humming. Faint. Slow. Like someone casually passing time. Coming from outside my window. I checked my phone. 3:30 a.m. My window was still cracked open. I cannot describe the feeling of lying there, knowing someone could be standing only a few feet away. If they wanted to, they could force the window open. I was alone. I thought about calling the police, but he'd hear me. So I decided, quietly close and lock the window first. I got out of bed, moving as slowly and silently as I could. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely move the blinds. Then, the humming stopped. I pulled back the blind. What I saw next was the most frightening thing I've ever seen in my life. The man from the pharmacy was standing directly outside my window. He was wearing the same black clothes, the same leather gloves, and his hands were covering his face. But this time, his fingers were spread apart,
just enough for me to see one eye, staring right at me. He didn't move. He didn't speak. Then, slowly, one side of his face smiled underneath the gloves. I screamed. I pushed away from the window, grabbed my phone, and dialed emergency services. I was crying so hard the operator could barely understand me. The police came. Blue and red lights through my blinds. I've never felt such relief. They searched everywhere. My house, nearby gardens, alleyways. No sign of him. But they found one thing. The pharmacy's glass door had been smashed. The metal security shutter had held. He couldn't get in. So he'd given up. And then he'd come to my window. I never saw that man again. The police never found him. But sometimes, when I drive past the pharmacy late at night, I still look at that spot where he was standing. And I wonder, did he want to intimidate me because I'd witnessed him trying to break in? Or was there some other reason he followed me home? I'll never know. But I never leave my window open at night anymore. Before the bagel shop, before the pharmacy, there was the apartment. I was 19, working as a server at a chain restaurant not far from my hometown. I wanted independence, to get out of a bad roommate situation. I found a place, a budget apartment complex down the road from my job. Cheap, a little rough around the edges, but safe enough. Or so I thought. For the first few months, everything was normal. Work, home, repeat. The only times I left my apartment were for work, to check my mail at the leasing office, or to take out the trash. All of that was within half a mile, a detail that would matter later. Then one day, I came home from work and felt it. Something off. The air in my apartment felt different, like someone had been there while I was gone. I climbed the stairs to my second floor unit, opened the door, and froze. Large, man-sized, muddy footprints were everywhere, across the living room carpet, leading into the kitchen. My heart pounded. I checked the kitchen, empty. I checked every room, every closet. No one. Nothing was missing. My cash and coins were still on the counter. My electronics untouched. That almost made it worse. Then one day, I came home from work and felt it. Something off. The air in my apartment felt different, like someone had been there while I was gone. I climbed the stairs to my second floor unit, opened the door, and froze. Large, man-sized, muddy footprints were everywhere, across the living room carpet, leading into the kitchen. My heart pounded. I checked the kitchen, empty. I checked every room, every closet. No one. Nothing was missing. My cash and coins were still on the counter. My electronics untouched. That almost made it worse.
I called the leasing office. Maybe a maintenance worker had been inside and forgotten to tell me. The office said no one was scheduled. I called a friend who also lived in the complex. He said I was being paranoid, that I probably walked through my own apartment with muddy boots and forgot. I knew I didn't. I knew I wasn't crazy. But without proof, what could I do? I started locking my doors and windows more carefully. It gave me some peace. For a few days.
Then, strange things started happening. My brand new jug of water, stored in the fridge, would be half empty and sitting on the kitchen counter when I got home. My heat, which I never turned up because I paid the bill, would be cranked to maximum. Small things, annoying things. Each time I called my friend. Each time he said I was forgetting or paranoid. I started to believe him. Maybe I was losing my mind. But I wasn't. After 2 months of this, I started testing. Every time I left my apartment, even for a minute, I put a piece of clear tape on the bottom of my door. If it was broken or missing when I got back, someone had opened the door. Every single time I returned,
The tape was moved or gone. Short trips to the dumpster? Tape missing. Quick mail check? Tape missing. Someone was coming and going while I was away, and they were watching me closely enough to know exactly when I left.
Then, I started coming home to find my door wide open. Not just unlocked, wide open. After short trips, after long shifts, it happened every time. I called the police. They took reports, but without evidence of theft or a suspect, there wasn't much they could do. They said to keep documenting. So I did. Anger replaced fear. Someone was doing this. Someone was watching me. And I was going to prove it. Months passed. The stalking became so frequent that I expected my door to be open every time I came home. And it was. I tried to break my lease. The office refused. I was trapped. Until one afternoon, on my day off, I noticed something missing. My gaming console, my electronics, gone from the TV console. Finally, proof. Real evidence. I called the police, then my friend. For the first time, no one could say I was paranoid. I finished my lease and moved out. Never found out who it was. That was the end of it. Or so I thought. 4 years later, my partner and I needed a cheap place to rent. We found one in the same complex, different unit. I swore I'd never live there again. But the price was right. At first, everything was fine. Then one afternoon, I was bringing in groceries when a maintenance worker stopped me. He called me by my name, my first name, and he asked if I used to live in that specific apartment, pointing to my old unit. I was freaked out. How did he know my name? How did he know which apartment I'd lived in years ago? He said the leasing office told him. I stepped back, suspicious. He must have seen it in my face because he followed up with something I'd been waiting years to hear. He said a former maintenance worker had recently been fired and arrested for breaking into women's apartments. He thought I might have been one of his victims. And then he told me the worst part. That man had lived directly across from me. Our front doors faced each other, no more than 50 feet apart. He had his own master key to every apartment. And every time I left for work, every time I walked to the dumpster, every time I checked my mail, he was watching from his window. He knew exactly when I was gone. He could be in and out of my apartment in minutes. That's why the tape was always broken. That's why my door was always open when I returned. He was watching the whole time. I never found out his name. He was already in custody by the time I heard the story. I never had to testify. But I think about him every time I lock my door at night. Every time I check the window. Every time I feel like someone might be watching. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And never, ever ignore the small signs. The tape on the door, the water jug on the counter. They might be the only warnings you get.
3 stories, 3 different times in my life. The bagel shop stalker who found my name, my theater, my car, and left roses at the stage door. The figure in black outside the pharmacy who followed me home and stood outside my window, smiling through his fingers. The maintenance man who had a master key and lived 50 feet away, watching every time I left for work. 3 different men, 3 different ways of making me feel unsafe in my own life. But they all share one thing. They exploited small cracks in my awareness. A posted Instagram story, an open window, a quick trip to the dumpster.
I didn't ask for any of this. I was just living my life, buying bagels, driving home from a friend's house, renting an affordable apartment. But I learned something. The world is full of people who will take your smallest opening and push through it. Your public social media, your predictable routine, your trust that a locked door means safety. I was lucky. The stalker eventually stopped. The man at the pharmacy vanished. The maintenance worker got caught. But I know not everyone is so lucky.
If there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's this. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it is. The tape on the door? That was proof. The handprints on the car window? That was proof. The humming outside your bedroom at 3:30 a.m.? That is not your imagination. You are not paranoid. You are paying attention. And paying attention might just save your life. I still live in the same town. I still work in theater. I still buy bagels, just at a different shop. And every time I lock my door at night, I think of that face outside my window. The face with the gloves and the smiling eye. I never saw him again, but I never forgot him, and I never will.